What's the point of doing nothing? I've recommended this approach that we can make to our work, where we can sit with it and even not do a thing. I call this a visit. And so, when I make this recommendation, I regularly hear a quite understandable question. What's the point of doing nothing? Well, as it turns out, quite a lot, and I can get into those reasons. But simply saying that and going through those reasons often isn't enough to make it appealing. In fact, this question, what's the point, can often be a way of avoiding the attempt. It's protecting us from something. It can even act as a proxy for several quite understandable reasons for avoiding what could be a powerful tool in your life. Welcome to the Rhythms of Focus podcast for wandering minds who are tired of feeling that they have to force themselves to make things happen. Maybe know that when things line up well, that tendency to wander actually becomes a powerful wave of focus. I'm Dr. Kourosh Dini, fellow wandering mind. It wasn't that long ago that I struggled to make things happen, whether it was to remember when to pay a bill, do things over time, or look at a list without feeling repulsed. Fast forward through years of study and practice, I can now not only deal with the world, I can be creative, playful, and engage in the ways that make sense to me. I can be a doctor, musician, father, still play games in the evenings. I've created this podcast to share these ideas so you can do the same, hopefully with a lot less of the troubles I needed to go through to get here. Whether you have ADHD, deal with anxiety, or just suffer from a powerfully creative spirit, I invite you to join me in this weekly podcast to start finding your own way to a calmer, more intuitive space. Please note, I'm not functioning as your doctor, psychiatrist, psychoanalyst, therapist, or otherwise. This is here for education, if not entertainment, and I do hope you enjoy it. A visit. Even more so, a daily visit. To some work that you have in front of you, some play that you want to get into, can be an absolute force to be reckoned with. This wonderful unit of work that can guide projects, habits, even developing relationships into fruition at a pace that works for you. I've described visits in some detail in episode 4, but in short, they're about showing up to a thing, whatever that thing is, desired, dreaded, and then fully being there without any obligation to doing any of it. We could sit there staring out at the garden. Maybe we nudge it here or there. Maybe we get into a flow. Or maybe we walk away without having touched it at all. The important matter is that we're somehow fully there for at least a moment. Maybe for a single deep breath. Allowing ourselves to do nothing is not only important, it's absolutely vital. It supports that sense of agency. It's like the difference between being assigned a book to read in school or choosing to read that same book yourself. While a visit can sound simple, it is by no means simple. In fact, it can not only be difficult, it can be dangerous and scary. On this question, what's the point of doing nothing, there's a clue in fear. Somehow we'd waste our time. The fear of wasting time is one of wasting life, this existentially awful feeling. What would we gain in taking this chance of being and not necessarily doing? For example, let's say I'm struggling with a school report. If I simply avoid it, I might fail the class. If I wait for urgency to take over with an approaching deadline, I could exhaust myself, lose out on more fun things, get thrown off by other deadlines, illness, among other possibilities. Or if I shove myself through, I might not be able to recognize more creative ways to engage or even learn from it, also exhausting myself. But if I can simply be for a few moments, maybe giving myself time well ahead of a deadline if possible, I can sense the fears. Maybe a sense of, I'm incapable, I'm lost, I don't know what I'm doing. But then I can start thinking, okay, well, how would I test that? Maybe I can try this, try that. I might find that, I do know how to do some things. But on the other hand, I might also find that my heart is just not in this. that my heart's actually in another major of work entirely, that I'd like to change majors. But then that butts up against another fear of having to talk to my parents, for example. This deeper fear, but also a place for stronger courage, a more important fight than the paper in front of me. In avoiding the pause, in avoiding being with the work, either forced ourselves through, moved on elsewhere, we miss that sense of, what does this mean to me? Every pause gives our mind time to have feelings and thoughts, themselves alive only in time. Given the room to settle, they strengthen the grounds of meaningful decision. Rather than wait for motivation, we begin creating the conditions for motivation to form. When I say do nothing, when I say be there, maybe another idea comes to mind too. Something like meditation. It seems like this peaceful thing, these peaceful images of just being. But it could also be terrifying. And by the by, I think real meditation can also be terrifying. Many of us have a number of emotional tensions and storms. I don't write the report not just because I don't feel like it, but possibly for fear of what it might reveal about my abilities and lack thereof. Therefore, of being unlikable, unsuccessful, unable to find relationships, unable to set limits, unworthy, and more. Doing nothing puts us in front of those horrors. Doing something, taking action, hyperactive, impulsive, regardless of the direction, is often this attempt to escape the dread. Being lets us engage in the hard work, which at its core is emotional work. When we visit something daily, we can always step away. We can always titrate. We can let our unconscious mind percolate between visits, having done the work of exposing ourselves to those emotions. Maybe it gets harder. Maybe it gets easier. Maybe we shift gears to only envisioning the work. So consider if a visit is avoided not out of hand, but from not hearing some important part of you that has a concern. When you say, "What's the point?" it might be that you're afraid of a waste of time, or a worry about what it might reveal. But know that then, if you can get there, if you can be with the work, and nothing comes to mind, that's okay. Your time was not wasted. Things often come up in the time between visits, as the mind kind of bubbles. One thing you can be sure of, though, is that if you're not with the work at all, at some point in time, neither it nor you would go forward. There is a challenge to this. Hard work is emotional work. And I know I'm supposed to say something like, hey, believe in yourself, it'll work out, and all that. I don't know you. Might even be impossible. Courage isn't something that we automatically reward with a prize. By definition, we might meet catastrophe. It may not work. There might be things that are scary. But we also might find things that are meaningful, beautiful, and a life otherwise missed. So the takeaway here, if you haven't given a visit a try, placing something in front of you, being with it, what's holding you back? A piece of music is a place of rest. It's somewhere for the mind to drift through for a few minutes. It can distract, it can confound, but in the end, I often find music to be refreshing. In the inevitable pauses of a visit, as I hear music sitting in the background, it can catch my wandering attention and gently help me return it to whatever it was, wherever I was. Losing my attention is a regular process as I work or write. It's part of the process. It's part of being there in that visit. I might be in the middle of something that seems to be quite moving, and yet the more moving it is sometimes, the more my mind can wander off without my realizing it. To that end, I've titled this piece with an absurd notion of losing something in plain sight. It's called, "Where Did the Table Go?" I hope you enjoy it. If you've enjoyed what you've heard today, kindly subscribe, rate, review with whatever app you're using. If you're on the Apples, press the Apple buttons. If you're on the Spotifys, press the spots. If you're on the YouTubes, press those things, whatever the things. And if you're feeling especially generous, consider leaving a review. Maybe mention your favorite piano piece or just say hi. Your support helps more wandering minds find this podcast.